All right, quick question for you. What do ancient Egyptian mummies, flaming Persian arrows, and that car sitting in your driveway have in common? I know, it sounds kind of like a weird riddle, right? But the answer is actually a single, absolutely world-changing substance. We are talking about something so incredibly powerful that it has literally built empires, sparked massive revolutions, and, well, it drives almost every aspect of our daily lives.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into the epic history of a mysterious, black, sticky substance that powers our entire world. Yep, we're talking about oil. We are going to trace its wild journey from being just this bizarre natural phenomenon in the ancient world all the way to becoming the absolute lifeblood of the modern global economy. It is a wildly fascinating story, so let's jump right in.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll look at ancient uses, the real origin of oil, drilling for a new era, monopolies and motor cars, and wrap up with the Middle East and global power.
Section 1. Ancient uses of black gold. Long before anyone had even thought of pump jacks or massive refineries, people in ancient Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, found this sticky, really strong-smelling black liquid just naturally seeping up from cracks in the earth. The Sumerians noticed it naturally repelled water, so they brilliantly used this raw bitumen to waterproof their wooden boats and even strengthen their brick walls. But the variety of uses across different empires is just staggering. The Egyptians? They used it to preserve bodies for the afterlife. Actually, fun fact, the Arabic word for this substance was mumia, which is literally where we get the word mummy from today. Meanwhile, over in China's Sichuan region, they were ingeniously drilling down with hollow bamboo pipes to extract it for light and heat. Persia actually turned it into a weapon with flaming arrows, and in ancient Greece, doctors used it to treat skin and joint problems. And you know what? Modern science backs them up, showing certain raw petroleum components do have antibacterial properties. These ancient people were tapping into this resource in incredibly innovative ways, without really having a clue what it actually was.
Moving on to Section 2, the real origin of oil.
Okay, let's clear something up right off the bat, because we've all heard it. Oil does not come from dinosaurs. Total myth. The real story actually starts way, way back, like 300 to 400 million years ago, long before a T-Rex ever walked the Earth. It begins with trillions of microscopic marine organisms. Think plankton, algae, tiny sea life, just living in these ancient oceans. When they died, they sank to the bottom and slowly got covered in layer after layer of sand and mud. Over millions and millions of years, they were buried incredibly deep. Down there, intense heat and crushing pressure went to work, fundamentally altering their molecular structure.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this intermediate stage known as kerrigan. Before it becomes the slick oil we know, that intense pressure turns those ancient biological remains into a waxy organic substance. When the temperature of the Earth hits a very specific sweet spot, somewhere between 60 and 120 degrees Celsius, this kerrigan breaks down and magically transforms into crude oil. If it gets hotter than that, well, it bakes into natural gas instead. And because oil is lighter than water, it slowly rises up through microscopic cracks in the earth until it hits a hard, impenetrable rock layer. It gets trapped right there, forming these massive underground reservoirs. For thousands of years, humans were literally just skimming whatever managed to leak to the surface.
Section 3. Drilling for a new era. Fast forward to the mid-19th century. The Industrial Revolution is booming, populations are exploding across Europe and America, and the world desperately needs a new reliable source of nighttime light. Up until this point, whale oil was basically the go-to for illuminating homes. But because of massive overhunting, whales were being driven to the brink of extinction. That made whale oil incredibly scarce and, frankly, wildly expensive. The world was practically begging for new fuel. Enter Canadian geologist Abraham Gessner in 1846. He figures out how to extract this clean, super-efficient fuel from crude oil and calls it kerosene. Suddenly, almost overnight, there was a desperate global hunger for raw crude oil to produce this new miracle fuel. But the big question was, where on earth were they going to find enough of it?
Well, the answer came from a guy who totally ignored conventional wisdom. Edwin Drake wasn't some hotshot geologist or fancy engineer, he was just a retired railway worker. A small company sent him to Titusville, Pennsylvania, to try something that sounded completely crazy at the time. Drill into the earth for oil, exactly like you would drill for water. Skeptics completely mocked him. His own company almost cut his funding entirely. But Drake, he refused to quit, and on August 27, 1859, at just 69 feet deep, a thick black liquid bubbled right up the pipe. He had successfully drilled the world's first commercial oil well. In an instant, Drake sparked an absolute, chaotic oil rush. Thousands of people swarmed Pennsylvania, turning ordinary dirt farmers into millionaires overnight in this wild, frantic frenzy to strike it rich.
Section 4. Monopolies and motor cars. Now, amidst all this chaotic drilling and wild speculation, there was one man who saw the bigger picture. John D. Rockefeller realized something crucial. Pulling oil out of the ground was way too unpredictable to build true, lasting wealth. His brilliant, albeit ruthless strategy? Control the refining. You see, raw crude oil straight from the earth is virtually useless. It has to be refined to become kerosene or lubricants. Rockefeller understood that if he could control the refineries and the transportation, he held all the cards. He secretly negotiated heavily discounted shipping rates with the railways, allowing him to completely undercut all his competitors. By 1870, he formed Standard Oil, and within just a single decade, Standard Oil controlled a staggering 90% of all oil refining in the United States.
The sheer amount of wealth this generated is almost incomprehensible to us today. Adjusted for modern inflation, John D. Rockefeller's net worth is estimated at around $400 billion. Let that sink in. He became the most powerful industrialist in human history. And here is the ultimate, crazy irony of the whole thing. The U.S. government eventually became so terrified of his massive monopoly that the Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil to be broken up in 1911. But instead of ruining him, the individual shares of these newly splintered companies skyrocketed. It actually made Rockefeller even wealthier than he was before.
So just as the kerosene lighting market was peaking, a brand new invention arrived on the scene that would change the destiny of oil forever: the internal combustion engine. In 1886, Carl Benz creates the first successful petrol-powered car. Then, in 1908, Henry Ford rolls out the Model T, using assembly line techniques to make cars affordable for everyday people. Suddenly, there were millions of cars on the roads, and right behind them came the trucks, the buses, and the tractors. Oil was no longer just a way to keep the lights on after dark. It literally became the heartbeat of the modern economy. It was powering the motion of the entire world.
Section 5. Middle East and global power. With all these millions of vehicles hitting the roads globally, demand just went through the roof. The United States was the world's biggest producer at the time, but even that wasn't going to be enough. The desperate search for fuel sent geologists all across the globe, and it sparked a massive geopolitical pivot. In 1908, a British expedition struck commercial oil in Iran. Then, after years of heartbreaking, really expensive failures, explorers hit a monumental, earth-shattering reserve at Dammam Well No. 7 in Saudi Arabia in 1938. Huge discoveries quickly followed in Kuwait, Iraq, and all across the Gulf. The world woke up to the fact that the greatest reserves weren't in America at all. They were buried deep beneath the Middle Eastern sands. Initially, foreign companies swooped in and reaped the profits. But by 1960, the producing nations realized exactly how much leverage they had. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and Venezuela banded together to form OPEC, an organization explicitly designed to take control of their own resources and dictate global supply and prices.
And the true, terrifying power of this shift, it was felt globally just over a decade later. In 1973, war broke out in the Middle East. When several Western nations threw their support behind Israel, Arab oil-producing countries responded by deliberately cutting production and halting supplies. The result was instantaneous and absolutely devastating. Global prices skyrocketed overnight, there were massive, endless lines at gas pumps, and immense, crippling inflation swept right across the globe. For the very first time, humanity fully grasped a scary reality. A mere hiccup in the supply of this one single substance could literally bring the entire modern global economy to a complete grinding halt.
And you know, that really brings us to the ultimate paradox of this incredible resource. From waterproofing ancient Mesopotamian boats to creating the very first modern billionaires and driving the cars we use today, the journey of oil is basically the story of human civilization itself. It gave us light, it gave us unprecedented speed, and it built the industrial modern world as we know it. But at the exact same time, it created this dangerous, highly precarious dependence. Every single aspect of our modern existence relies heavily on a finite, shrinking supply of ancient, transformed marine plankton.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to ponder. We have managed to harness a 400-million-year-old black liquid to conquer the globe. But when an entire modern civilization is built upon a single fragile resource, is it actually our greatest strength, or is it our ultimate weakness? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.